Welcome, everyone. Today we're doing a deep dive that promises to go quite a bit deeper than your usual chat about weight loss. We're going to be unpacking the, well, really profound insights from Dan Hollis. His ideas are really challenging some common assumptions.
They really are. And for this deep dive, we've gathered thoughts from, quite a few Dan Hollis's writings, some interviews, conversations.
Okay.
And it's important to say upfront, well, things like semaglutide, you probably know it as Ozempic or Wegovy while they come up.
Right.
Our focus isn't strictly on the drug itself. It's more about the psychological journey it can kickstart.
So more than just the medication.
Exactly. We want to explore what actually happens, when that biological noise, the cravings, the constant thoughts about food, when that gets quieter, what truth starts to bubble up.
And that leads perfectly into this really provocative statement Dan Hollis makes. He says, it was never about the food. Now, that just stops you in your tracks, right? Because everything we hear is about food, calories, discipline. So if it's not about that, what on earth is it about? And what does that mean for you if you're wrestling with this?
Precisely. And he follows that up with this headline, which I think is just brilliant. What if you weren't broken, just confused?
Oh, wow.
See? That little shift, it changes the whole conversation. It moves you away from feeling like a failure, from all that self-blame.
Yeah, that's huge.
And opens up this space for, well, curiosity, for potential. And Dan suggests that semaglutide can offer this really unique kind of silence, a quiet space where maybe you can discover that truth.
So, okay, the world's telling us it's calories in, calories out, diet, willpower. And Dan Hollis comes along and says, hold on, maybe you're looking in the wrong place entirely. So what is he pointing towards? What's the actual game changer here in his view?
Well, what's really striking is how he frames semaglutide. It's not just, take this pill, lose your appetite. He sees it more as a catalyst for insight.
Big catalyst. How so?
He says, and this is a direct quote, it gives you a moment where food stops talking. Think about that. Food stops talking. He goes on, and for some people, that's the first honest moment they've had in 20 years.
Oh, 20 years.
Yeah. So this biological pause, this sudden quiet, it finally gives you the space to ask, okay, what am I really hungry for? But the truth is, that kind of quiet, it can actually be pretty confronting. Almost scary for some.
I can imagine. Like losing a crutch, maybe?
Exactly. It feels like losing this familiar coping mechanism, even if it wasn't a particularly helpful one. And that can lead to confusion, maybe even a pull to go back to the old ways, the old patterns.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Food stops talking. You mentioned he talks about decoding emotional amnesia. So if food's been filling some kind of void or, like you said, a coping mechanism for years, when that's suddenly gone, you're left feeling, well, exposed. Is that what he means?
That's a great way to put it, exposed. Yeah. Yes. When that biological noise floor drops because of the medication, all those underlying emotional layers, things like loneliness, boredom, anxiety, maybe even joy you haven't known how to deal with.
Okay.
They all start coming to the surface. For a lot of people, food has been the kind of unconscious way they've managed all that. It's like the silent agreement they had with themselves.
Right.
So Dan explains, people don't fail on these medications because the drug stops working. Often it's because nobody prepared them for what to do with that silence.
Okay. So it's not the drug failing, it's the lack of a plan for the quiet.
Sort of, yeah. He really emphasizes that the real work, the deep work, it doesn't start when you begin losing weight. It starts, he says, when you stop needing food to explain your feelings.
That's powerful.
And that's the emotional amnesia bit. We've sort of forgotten the original reasons, the deeper roots of why we developed those eating patterns in the first place. So when the food noise dials down, boom, those forgotten feelings can come roaring back.
So, all right, what does this mean practically for someone who finds themselves in this new quiet space? It sounds like Dan's approach isn't just take the pill and wait. He's very active about it. He talks about building, what do you call it, inner architecture.
Inner architecture, creating scaffolding, forging new identities, establishing new rituals.
Right. It's like he's saying you need to actively rewrite the story that you were maybe too full, quote unquote, to finish before. Can you unpack that inner architecture idea a bit more?
Yeah, definitely. If we zoom out a bit, Dan Hollis's core idea here is that this emotional hunger often stems from what he calls identity disconnection.
Identity disconnection.
Yeah, like when you lose touch with who you really are deep down, or maybe feel out of sync with your authentic self, food then becomes this kind of easy substitute for whatever feels missing.
Okay, okay.
So when he talks about inner architecture or scaffolding, he literally means building new mental and emotional structures, things to support this emerging self that's maybe been buried for a while.
So scaffolding isn't just temporary support.
Well, it can be, but it's more about actively creating new habits, yes, but also new beliefs, new ways of coping with feelings without relying on food as the default. This is why he says something really interesting. You don't hold on to weight loss with discipline. You hold on to it with alignment.
Alignment, not discipline. Okay.
Right. Losing weight might change your body, sure. But only crafting a new story for yourself, finding that alignment with who you truly are or maybe who you're becoming, that's what creates lasting change in your future.
So his work is really about what happens after the initial changes. After the scale moves, the clothes fit.
Exactly. When maybe your outer life starts to look different, but your inner story, your sense of self, hasn't quite caught up yet. He helps people consciously build that new narrative, that new architecture.
Okay, so let's try and summarize this key insight from Dan Hollis then. Semaglutide, or similar medications, they aren't some magic bullet, but they can offer what he calls a miracle pause.
Yeah.
A really crucial window, a unique kind of silence that gives you a chance to choose a different path. It's the pause itself that holds the possibility.
Absolutely. And that pause, it changes the whole dynamic. Healing that deeper emotional hunger, it takes, and again, this is drawing from Dan's wisdom, it takes empathy, not judgment. It takes awareness, not rules. And it takes curiosity, not punishment.
Empathy, awareness, curiosity, not judgment, rules, punishment.
Exactly. That perspective just completely reframes the journey, doesn't it? It points towards a much gentler, more insightful way to approach self-discovery and ultimately lasting change.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, maybe the best way to finish is with a question that Dan Hollis essentially asks. We want to leave this with you, the listener, now that food might not be filling all the gaps. What are you truly hungry for?
Yeah.
He encourages us to think about living more instead of just focusing on eating less. What could living more actually look like in your life? Something to reflect on.